All right, good morning. How is everybody? So today we're going to make some 18 karat yellow gold. Okay, so what we have here, this is our master alloy. Okay, and this is our pure gold. And so what we do is we calculate out what the ratio is. So in this case, for 18 karat, we use 75% pure gold and 25% alloy. So what that looks like here is not a lot, as you can see, right? So it's about 7.75 is the weight of the gold ingot and about 2 grams of master alloy. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat this up and we're going to pour it into the mold, and that's going to give us an ingot that we can then roll out at the rolling mill, and that's how we make our 18 karat gold. Okay, so there are some procedures we want to do firsthand. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to use granular borax. Okay, we don't want to use your regular flux material. You want the granular. It works better when you're doing casting stuff, and you don't need very much. Okay, just a little bit will be more than enough. Basically, we're putting this on here to keep it from oxidizing and to float any impurities that might be in the container, float them out to the surface so that they're not actually mixed in with the metal, right? Now this is very important, this next step. What we're going to do is we're going to light up the torch. I'm going to turn up the oxygen pressure because we're going to use a Smith micro torch with a rosebud attachment. You can get these through Stellar or Rio, whatever you need. Okay, we're going to heat this up. And the reason that we're going to heat the mold up is because there's moisture on the mold that you can't see. But as soon as you put the heat to it, you'll see that moisture come to the surface. Now, if you were to pour molten metal into this mold with that moisture on there, it's going to flash back and fly out all over the place because it instantly turns it to steam because of the heat. That's a big no-no. That's a very big safety issue. So you always want to make sure that you pre-warm your mold maker and get that moisture off of it. Okay, so I'm going to get everything set up and show you what that looks like. I have the torch set up. I'm running my my propane at about 8 psi, 9 psi, and I'm running my oxygen at about 8 or 9 psi, which is higher than I normally would. You always light your propane first and then your oxygen. Okay, and then we're going to fine tune our flame. Hear that nice strong hiss? That's what we're going to want when we go ahead and melt the metal. But first, let's go ahead and heat the block of the mold maker and get the moisture off of there. I don't know if that's going to show up on the video, but you should see that the lighter spots on the mold maker are darkening up with moisture sitting on there. I always heat from the base and work my way up to the top. Okay, I can see it right there on the side climbing up. I don't know how well that shows on camera, but you want to make sure that there is no moisture left on these mold makers. It's very dangerous if you don't do this step of the process first. Okay, you need to amp this up. Make sure it's nice and moist. This particular mold maker will make round stock or it will make plate stock, depending on what you need and how you configure the mold. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is we're going to get that moisture off of there. We're almost done on this side. Now we're going to go over to this one. Same thing, heat from the bottom. Just drive that moisture up and out of there. And you use a little bit of a hotter flame when you're doing this just to get it to happen quicker, right? The reason that we're making this 18 karat stock today is because I'm a little low on my inventory, and we have got a heavy gauge ring over 3 millimeters wide that we're going to go ahead and do a sizing on. So we need a nice chunky piece that we're going to roll out and make so that we can take care of that. We'll heat it a little bit from the back side as well. And then what we're going to do here in a second is we're going to put these two together. If you feel the need, you can wear gloves. I find them to be very, very cumbersome with the smaller ingot maker. When I'm casting, I use the gloves to protect my hands, but it's very cumbersome when you're working with these smaller pieces. Okay. The other thing we need to do is we need to put soot. I shouldn't have shut that off yet. We need to put soot on the surface of these blocks. That's going to prevent it from sticking to it, right? So what you have is when you had your hot flame, dial it back until it's a very orange fluffy flame, and then just brush the surface of it with the tip. And you can probably see some black soot going up into the air, and then you can also see on the mold that the surface is blackened, right? This is just going to make it easier to take out the piece once you've cast it, your ingot, all right? Now that we've done that, let's go ahead, put your torch down somewhere safe so it doesn't burn anything. And you want to orient it so that you're comfortable using it, right? In this case, we're going to be pouring a really small ingot, the smallest size. So I'm going to do that. And then we're going to take the bracket that holds it. I usually put the bracket in the dead center, both horizontally and vertically. Don't lock it down just yet because you want to align these holes, okay? Otherwise, you'll wind up with a step in your ingot, which can cause problems when you're trying to roll things out. The other thing is you periodically want to clean on the base of the two pieces because little bits of gold get stuck in there over time and they can cause problems. So, all right, what we're going to do, again, we light our propane first and then our oxygen. And when we shut it off, we shut off our oxygen and then our propane, okay? We're going to go ahead and get our flame up nice and blue. See how blue that is? Make sure you're not near anything that'll set on fire because it does extend out really far, okay? See if I can back this up a little bit. Nope, that's it. All right. I'm going to reheat this real quick, just a little bit, in case it cooled down to the point where, you know, some moisture could start to collect. And now with that nice, sharp, hissing flame, we're going to go ahead and melt this up. Not only are you trying to heat up the metal, right, but you're also trying to heat up the crucible. Because what we're going to do is to make sure this is thoroughly mixed, we're going to roll it around a little bit. So we want a nice uniform heating. That way, it will roll and float and mix nicely. Okay? As you can see, it takes a minute for it to heat up. And again, not just the gold, not just the alloy, but we want to also heat the crucible. Come on, roll down. There we go. All right. So the whole thing has started to melt together. And what we're going to do is, once it gets there, we're going to start mixing it up. It should come into a nice round shape, like so, right? And then we're just going to swirl it around to make sure that it mixes nicely and uniformly. I think you can see it floating in there basically. And when you get ready to pour, don't boil it, but keep it molten and then line up on whatever hole that you want to pour into, right? And you want to pour quick and smooth. There we go. All right, so there's that part of it. And now, before it cools off too much, the first one you make, you should be able to grab this, okay? If you're not comfortable, then get some gloves or use a tool. If you were to do another ingot, I wouldn't recommend that. So we're going to take this side off, all right? And with some tweezers, we're going to go ahead and get our 18 karat gold out of there. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to quench this real quick in some plain water. Okay, The larger ingots tend to hiss when you first drop them in there. This one didn't do that, but that's okay. And then we're going to dry it off. Make sure you leave it in there long enough for it to cool down. And as you can see, I was still a little bit misaligned here, so we have a bit of a step, but that'll be okay. And then we have this flashing, which is common down here at the bottom if there's a space between this upright piece and the bottom plate. But here's our 18 karat gold ingot that we will now roll out so that we can do the ring sizing with the appropriate size stock. I'll clean all of this stuff off. I'll pick up all those little pieces, and those will go in my 18 karat bin to be remelted in the future.